We're going to go over 3 elements. We're going to go over the navigation of the website where the information is. We're going to go over indexing on the videos, how that helps and how to use it. And then we're going to go over mapping, and Ben will be doing paper maps instead of GIS. The first thing with the website, it's not designed like a typical website. It's designed to be having links sent through email, or it's designed to find locations on Google. So we'll look at that fairly closely. You can see the first year's work. You go to their website, and the information there that the students have done. Quite a few of these are useful for projects that people are doing now. These levels here are good for context. These are the types of using a map, a photograph, and a written report. That's an option. So all of this work will go on Oregon websites. You'll find out in a little bit that hundreds of people actually use these through the years, 1 or 2 a month, and they're a pretty good source of information that way. So if we look at the main navigation, which is not the best one to use, but it still works. There's the 2018 plan, the 2019 plan, and these have all the student work. A lot of it has to do with what we're doing now. The person that's doing roads and trails, we've got good work on that by the students. And these types of photographs and maps, if they can be used, they're already in place, they can be cited. And Laura, you've been taking pictures, so I'm hoping that you can put...
I have a finished product for you to look at.
Oh, wow.
So, it doesn't look like these, but it's a report. It's like a technical report.
And it's all finished?
Finished.
Wow.
I had to survive this.
Well, these are just illustrations of what students have done before, and hopefully what other students, such as yourself, are using now to look at. The different reports by the students is one thing, but another thing is the maps. And for students that are working with maps, here's the good base maps. And we're going to go, that part 3 is going to be going over these maps and showing how to put together early trails with campsites. And then I think the one link I sent you, or they'll be coming up, Laura, is we've got all the photos. They're all indexed so people can find them real easy, so they'll be able to find yours either geographically or by format. And then the really important one is history. And so here we've got probably a dozen books, a lot of them written locally. We've got David family history, the Goulds, on the Elliott. We've got entire books. The Goulds of Elkhorn book, if history is part of it. And hopefully students can use some of this work as well. We've got a diary from 1908 on the Elliott. We've got photographs we've taken. We've got David in his football uniform. And we've got references, and on the references you can see those PDF files. So navigating this by using standard methods works. It's a little bit clunky. This system was actually designed by 3rd graders in 1997, and it works. But what we're going to do is show the actual thing this was designed for. Up here you'll see a Google search and an ORWW search. So if I just type in Elliott State Forest, on the Google search, if we just do Elliott State Forest, we get College of Forestry, we get Oregon Wild, we get Oregon Government. We should get an ORWW down there somewhere. Elliott State Forest, Portland Audubon, Oregon Public Broadcasting, Wikipedia, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Coast Range Forest Watch, let's see, Oregon Live, Cascadia Wildlands, here we go.
There it is, there's one.
ORWW, so we're down about 10 or 15th place. When we started working with the Celeste kids in 1997, we would be the second or third highest for salmon cycle. But we're still, you can find us easy enough, but if we do ORWW and Elliott Forest, you can see that we get all of our work. We're on the top there, and if we do the images, we've got all kinds of access. So this is the World Wide Web, and anything on the Elliott, if you type in an ORWW first, we've got the largest library of information on the Elliott, and it's all been built mostly by students going through this class, through Tasha's class. So you can see there's a significant amount of photos, maps, data. Now if we try something more precise than Elliott Forest, Mudrunner's Camp, you see that we get, right away, we get a student report. So your reports, once they're online, are going to be searchable and easy to find like this. We can't tell how many people are using the actual reports in that. We know it's a lot, but we don't know how many. We do know on the videos. So that's the main thing for navigation, is you can go through, if you know what you're looking for, and find it. But it's kind of clunky, especially with, we got 25 years of stuff there now. Some of it's made by third graders. Some of it's made by graduate students. Some of it's made by David and me. So it's variable. But if you use the search engine, then it's real easy. And then if you're going to send an email like I do, and you use the links, the best way to navigate this site and to share this information is to copy the link and send it to email to whoever you want it to go to. Second easiest is just do a Google search. But you can always just plow through on the navigation. So there's three ways, and the least effective way is the normal way, which is open up a website and navigate that way. But we were designed from the very beginning, before Google even existed, to do searches by search engines. We were using Alta Vista and others, so that's one reason that our addresses, we got full words. We did various things to make it easy to find us on international search. So even though it's a little tiny website in a little tiny town, we're right up there with U.S. Forest Service and everybody else when it comes to this kind of data, Oregon State and so on. If we go back to the main page, we don't have to necessarily do this, but our YouTube channel. So when we hit the pandemic and we had to start putting everything online to do remote learning, kind of like we're doing now, everything was shut down, and so it was the task of using an iPhone. No shops were open. Downloading software, learning how to use the newer software. Fortunately, Mackenzie was doing that. And then videotaping. Typically there'd be me and her, or me and her and Dave, or Jerry Phillips. So these are the videos we've done through the years. We've been doing video online since it was possible, since about 2002. So for more than 20 years, we've had grade schoolers and high schoolers and college students putting together videos. And some of them are fairly popular. We go to playlists, then we can see that we get all of the Elliott Forest videos all in one spot. They're all in one playlist. And so students can, or anybody visiting these can find them. Now some of these, like here's the lab from 2 years ago, 379 views. So when you guys are using it, we get 5 or 10 or 12 or 15 views. And then it will happen that we get more views on a monthly basis, or an annual basis at least, where people are coming in and we'll get somebody, 3 or 5 people will look at this. Maybe one person 3 or 4 times, or share it with friends. So all of these continue being used. Some of them have been online now for over 20 years. They've got tens of thousands of views. Others have been online for a year or two and they've got 100 or 200 views. But the important thing is anybody using Google to search for any of these topics is going to come up very quickly with your work. Like we looked at there. And these are all indexed. They've all been, one or two haven't been, but closed captioned has been done, and they've all been indexed. And so the indexing means that longer videos or videos where you're only interested in one thing or two things.
This is Dr. Bob Sydak with ORWW.
Might be boring, so let's go to, oh, this is Jerry Phillips. He's no longer with us, but we've got all of his video. He was the expert on the Elliott. So let's go to Loon Lake. Somebody's doing one on coronavirus. So that's interesting because we've had to do distance learning. We've had to, so if we go to the index and we want to find
hello everybody.
Huckleberry Point.
Okay, we're on Huckleberry Point, which is a short way from the Loon Lake Lodge. And
so the way to, all of these are indexed. You can see there's words on it. They're all basic and they're all topically listed. And then if you get a link in the email, it'll go right to this location. You've got the words on it. You've got the typing to follow it. You can maneuver it. So the whole thing that we've been putting together, all the students and Oregon websites, me and David, is more and more information, but it's all indexed, it's all organized so that it's easy to find. Whether you get it on an email link or you do a Google search, it's all readily accessible. After recreation, there should be a 2023 underscore campsites, and there should be a 2022 underscore videos. Okay, so here we go, and I think I got these in order. Here is a typical index, and the index is looking at Mudrunner's Camp, which we looked at earlier, and you saw how these work. What you can't see is how they get analyzed. So the analysis, this is the one where we had 36,000. This is the whole time it's been up. Here's the pandemic. A lot of people were watching video during the pandemic. This shows, and this is what we're going to look at it more than anything, this shows what happens when people are watching the videos. And it says down here, after 30 seconds, 37% of the people are still watching, which is typical. So you got about 30 seconds if you're going to do a video to catch people's attention. Otherwise, it's just going to go down really low. So about half a minute, 48 seconds is the average time somebody watched this video, and it's only a minute or two long, so that's quite a bit. That's 37%. So on a video that's an hour, hour and a half, quite often this could be 3 or 4 minutes, and this would be like 12 or 15%. That's why the index is important. Otherwise, people are only watching the front part there. So you see we had 36,000 views, but this has been on for 15 years, so that's not, but 348 hours, and we got 48 followers because of it. So this is a typical overtime viewership of one more. These up here, that's the last 48 hours. So if we click to see more, we know exactly who was watching what. So that way, you don't get to see this as a user, but where this is going and the website, this is what's open to look at. So here is 90 days, the last 3 months. You can see daily views, last 48 hours, the same thing as before. This is the most popular one. Down here we've got field trip #1. That was the 4th most popular. People like music more, or they like digging sticks more. And so you can see that different videos that we put up have different rates of use. Now this one has been indexed. This is a student work from 2 years ago. It's had 192 views. When the students were doing it, it had about 10 or 12 views. So it's just regularly people use it, people access it, maybe former students, but certainly anybody using Google is going to be coming across these videos. So the same thing as before, 30 seconds we get a drop off, but you can tell it's been indexed. Those spikes, so we go to one spike, that one there, and that caught people's interest. That was the rhododendron garden. So, and then average, here they're watching it at 6 minutes, the other one is 48 seconds, and this is only 6.8% of the total. But you can see what people are doing. There's people using it, but they're just going to one area that they like, and which is the purpose of the index. It's not, you're not expected to sit through the whole thing, but to find what you're interested in and use that. I think I got one or two more of these. This is the Golden and Silver Falls. There's a spike right at the end. This one, Kinsey put right before we got rid of this black spot here. We couldn't figure out how to do that and lose all of our data. We didn't want to do that. But here's where we put it up for the class. So you can see there's an increase in use. And then nobody was interested. And then about a year ago, they found a sunken boat out in the bay. And so I sent a link to the, this has got a big section on steamboats. Sent a link to the newspaper guy, the reporter, and bam, there's a lot of interest right up through there. And that interest has been sustained. So this is a video that's a field trip that has caught interest because it talks a lot about steamboats. And again, we can see the same thing. We can see these spikes, but we can see a lot stronger. There's not tailing off. So a lot of people are watching that all the way through and go to a big spike at the end, and they like Golden Falls. Now here we're getting what you guys are used to. This was the worksheet. These are the campsites on the Elliott. These are the numbers. There's 36 of them. Some of them we don't know where they're located. Those are question marks. These names here, the three C's were campsites established in the 1930s. The Goulds are campsites established in the 1880s. ORWW are ones that we worked with or students worked with. Where we see X's, those are student reports. So we've got places that people can actually go. You can go to Google and put in that name, and then you've got it. And then Phillips is Jerry Phillips. It's campsites that he mentions that either doesn't come from David's background or the Oregon website. So there's Phillips, Oregon websites, Gould, and 3 C's. This column is Phillips. So all of those numbers, and we're going to go to those in a second, are in his book. So his book that we're using as a basis, we have links to all of the campsites. This is the, we're going to do a few practices on this today, but this is the Township-Range-Section. Where are these located? So this was something that we wanted to work on. We're still working on. We're going to work on it a little bit. Here are notes that are taken. You can see the dry camps where water isn't available. And here's the landowner. So the ones with Elliott are ones that we want to, for sure, document, make reports on, be aware of. Question mark, they might be on the Elliott. And then private, it's like Waco, maybe, school property. So some of those we're not sure on, and they can be eliminated. So this is basically the working checklist of all the unimproved campsites, primitive campsites that we know about, that we've, in the last 4 or 5 years, that we've come up with. Let's see what, I'm going to go up, oh good, we can have Excel. Okay, we can use that a bit. The one thing I skipped was history, and Phillips. Okay, the column I just showed you, hopefully we can do a skip back and forth between this, but this is a Jerry Phillips book, and where you saw all that columns that tells about the different campsites, you go to that page in this book and it'll tell you more about that campsite. And what I'm going to skip ahead on here, let's see, I think about 384 something was one of the numbers. We can find it real quick. So the point is, on the Excel file, that information can go right into GIS. If we get the legal descriptions on it, and we're going to look at the maps here in a bit, oh good, we're in about the right spot. So Jerry's got lots of maps, and about 384 or something like that on one of the numbers. Well, we'll go to this one. Mud Springs, we didn't go there. The other classes have been there before, but Section 36, Township 22, Range 11. So that's the last thing we're going to be going to here, is how to map these locations, either from here or when we're on the location itself. Okay, back to this. You can see Jerry's numbers here. You can see township, range, and section. So I think we're going to need the lights now. What I'm going to do is paper maps, and to show how these can be mapped out accurately so that they can be used on paper. We were hoping to do it on GIS, but GIS, the advantage would be by using Excel files and GIS layers, that you can print out maps. You've got a lot of opportunity. But let's see, I'm going to turn on the light here, and let's start with this map just for background, then I'll go to that map. Okay, let's see, I think you guys can see this. A township, which is the left column, is 6 miles by 6 miles. And a section is 1 mile by 1 mile. And a township has 6 square miles across the top, 6 back, and they're all got 36 square miles. So 36 at the bottom, and here's another Township 23 South is that way, Township 24 South is that way. Then ranges go out every 6 miles this way. So here's the range sign. So here's range 11 west, here's 10 west. Then there'll be 12 west, 9 west. So when you're using any kind of map to map campsites or trails, you want to use a USGS 7.5 minute quadrangle. These are the most accurate maps that are paper. So when we're mapping things in the forest, we want to use USGS 7.5 minute quadrangles. Those are the gold standard. Now here we have, maybe you guys can read those. If we got 36 there, do we have 36 there? Maybe it hasn't scrolled up enough.
Henderson Cedar Cabin Camp.
Henderson, yep. How about 14?
No.
That should be
It's Elkhorn Ranch.
Elkhorn Ranch. 29.
Runners.
How about 15?
Gould Lake.
Yeah, I can't.
That's Gould's Lake. Okay, so 24. Can you read that?
That's Elk Peak Camp.
Okay, you guys didn't go to 24, but we came around and we went from the Cedar Cabin, then we went down to 31, should be mouth of Trout Creek. Do you remember the pull-out there and the cross? The 21 is Ben Jacobs, or Bob Jacobson Fishing Camp. And we got the Mud Runners Camp. We've got the Elkhorn Ranch. And then up here we renamed this one. This one I'd call the Beaver Creek Spring, but David said it should be named after the landmark there. What's the name of that, Dave? The what?
Big saddle.
Oh, the big saddle. Okay, so if we go over to our, let's see if I can work that there. If we go to Beaver Creek Spring Ranch.
You have to hit edit. It says enable editing at the top.
Enable edit.
The top of
Oh,
the,
got it,
yeah.
got it. Oh, okay. Okay, so, there we go.
It's right there.
Okay, so, big saddle camp. It keeps the same number and it keeps the same routines. So the highlighted areas either follow riparian areas or ridge lines. So every trail that connects the campsite is going to be along a creek or along a ridge, and these are travel routes that have been used, a lot of them, for thousands of years, and you can see they connect up the camps. So there's ways to hike or make bike trails or use existing roadways to connect to these camps. Now if we go to, let's just try one of them here. Here is Township 23 South, is range 11 West, 2311, and section 26. And that's for two of those, 29 and 14. So 23 South, range 11 West, and what's the section? 26. And that's the same as for Mud Runners Camp, which is, well, Mud Runners Camp, there it is. So that is also, what was it, 23 South?
23 south,
23
11 west.
South, 11 West, section 26. Okay, so you can see what we're doing. We can either take the numbers from Jerry's and put them in the Excel file, so we're getting a good inventory of exact locations that can be mapped exactly, so somebody can be given or make a map to any one of these campsites, to groups of campsites, to figure out the travel routes between the campsites, whether they're pack trails or hiking trails or old Indian trails. So this one got renamed, that was a note. David Gould's Lake Camp, isn't that where Clarence?
That's Burger, George Jr.
George Jr.? Okay, so having a Gould's Lake Camp is fine then.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I thought it might be Clarence's and then we'd want to change the name.
Clarence is further down.
Okay. So now we got a claim. Getting an inventory, keeping it in order, locating things. This is just kind of a summary. This is what you build an index from. The maps are what you build products for that you can take into the field. So you can see how you can put in trails, you can put in numbers, you can find exact locations. Maybe you find it in Jerry's book and put it on a map then, and you can drive right to it by using the legal descriptions. If you map it out in the field, this is a trail butte. This is where we first started. It's a dry camp, so it's a red sticker. And here's a dry ridge. That's the trail. And where I've got a circle there, 23 and 24 South, right there, the road does not follow the actual trail. The trail goes up and over the ridge there. So there's a section that you could build in a foot trail and bypass the road. But otherwise, it follows the road. This one down here follows the river, Millicoma River. So all of the old trails and all of our new trails almost always follow a riparian area or they follow a ridge line. And then the connections between those two are pretty much common sense. Okay, so here's the final thing. I could have done this probably at the beginning. To make the maps, these maps here, You just don't want to invent information. So your background can come from Jerry's, or this is an area I did with, do any of you know Don Ivy other than John, David? Don Ivy was chief of the Coquelles. He was a friend of mine for about 20 years. We did a few projects together. So here we are mapping everything from Allegheny south. And the anticipation for this year was we would just continue this and go north. There's about 50 of these that the tribe has that Don Ivy and I built for them about 10 years ago. And those were all constructed in the following method. We had historical accounts, let's just say Jerry's book. We had modern maps where we looked at routes or where we're trying to find different locations. We used General Land Office survey notes, and there's hundreds of these, and I've been trying to get it to do it on the Elliott for a lot of years, but these tell where the surveyor in 1854 or 1886 or whatever crosses an Indian trail, or when they hit a grassland, or when they hit a forested area, or where the creek is. So you get eyewitness accounts measured precisely that go into these maps ultimately. This is the basis. People in the field developing the information. And so then that develops topographic maps. Here's highlighted trail systems that are on the topographic maps that are inherited from Indians and modified into pack trails. Here's a Metzger map. Metzgers are from the 1920s and 30s and 40s, so you can find older landowners, but they will retain the trails, and they're fairly accurate. You can see the same thing, townships, range, square miles, sections. So the type of surveying with the Township-Range-Section is consistent from the 1850s to now. So if you can learn that, you can learn how to read almost every map. Here's another example. This is from a 7.5 minute quad, so this is the final one. So these routes here and these notes are all built in from historical initial contact. And then we developed these. Here's the major Indian foot trails through this area. Allegheny's right up in here, south of the Elliott. So we had that all done. We didn't put in campsites, but we did operate from the original materials. Well, right up here, here's the Elliott. And so we want to tie into this, but this is for Coos County or the Coquelle tribe. Every one of these dots is a photo point. So we've got 2013 or something, whenever we were doing it. We've got a real good coverage of what the landscape looks like, what the topography is like, what kind of vegetation is there, what the road condition, and so on. And then we've got the ancient trails. And so where we're doing photographs along those trail routes, we're getting really good documentation. So that's by far the best primitive mapping, not primitive mapping, sophisticated mapping of primitive trail networks. And here's some of the photo points showing the different topography. Here's a myrtlewood camp. Remember we talked about that, where there's myrtlewoods. That's a good sign of a undeveloped campground, and one that might be hundreds or thousands of years old. There's one that that we're still using as a camp. Are there any questions? Any mapping you do, 7.5 minute plot. That's the bottom line. And if you don't, you already know, you work with the forestry. Township-Range-Section is what you need to know. And I think that's it.